Act 4, a little bit of background information as to what was happened historically between the time that Act 3 ended with Cinna's death and all the funeral stuff and the rites, and then where we pick up. It's important that we read the building background, which says that after Brutus and Cassius and the other conspirators fled Rome, Antony took charge of the city. He was soon joined by 18-year-old Caius Octavius, Caesar's great-nephew and adopted son. Because remember, Caesar didn't have sons and heirs, and so this individual was an adopted child, but you can see that the real relation was the great-nephew. Octavius was intelligent, handsome, and skilled at oratory, which means speaking, public speaking, and as we know, Antony was as well. Easily a potential fellow leader with the 40-year-old Antony. Together with a governor named Lepidus, Octavius and Antony created a ruling triumvirate. To prevent internal opposition, the triumvirate began their reign by murdering 200 of Rome's political leaders. Among these was the elderly senator and philosopher Cicero, a passionate defender of the Roman Republic. Cassius and Brutus, meanwhile, assembled their armies in an area that is now northern Greece, which is just east of Italy. So if you can think of that on a map. There they awaited the battle for the future of Rome. So look at what Antony did. Antony and this ruling party of 3, so 3 people will make the decisions, not just one person. So they can talk it out, maybe they can have votes within their little group of 3, but Antony seems to be the main decision maker, especially if he's 40 and Octavius is only 18. Okay, there's some year difference there. But a lot of people could have stood up and opposed him, and so how many did it say? 200 people. They went and killed and murdered these individuals. That doesn't sound like a very positive thing. But in order to keep control and keep Rome the way it needs to be during this rough transition phase, this had to happen. And so all of these people, even associated or thought to be associated with the assassination of Caesar, was ultimately crushed, caught, and killed as they could find them. So Act 4, Scene 1. Notice the location. It's Antony's house in Rome. Look at the timing of this. Look how much time has passed. A year and a half. If you didn't notice that, you'd think it was the next day. But you need to understand that how much time has passed, so that all of that action could have happened, even though it didn't happen on stage. But the story is still going and still going, and we've jumped now, teleported rather, a year and a half down the road. So we are in Antony's house. We have the 3 triumvirate, well, eventually 3, but Antony and Octavius really talking about what's our next step. What do we do here? We have Caesar's will. What are we going to do with that? What do we need to do with our armies? Pay particular attention to what Antony feels, or how Antony feels about Lepidus, who is the 3rd member of the triumvirate. Does he look at him as an equal, or does he look at him as an inferior? Way down below. Like that guy shouldn't even be a part of it. So see what that is. I think it's pretty obvious, but those are elements that you should be able to pick up on your own. So Scene 1, Act 4.
Act 4, Scene 1. Antony's house in Rome, a year and a half after Caesar's death. Enter Antony, Octavius, and Lepidus.
These many shall then die. Their names are pricked.
Your brother too must die. Consent you, Lepidus?
I do consent.
Prick him down, Antony.
Upon condition Publius shall not live, who is your sister's son, Mark Antony.
He shall not live. Look, with a spot I damn him. But, Lepidus, go you to Caesar's house. Fetch the will hither, and we shall determine how to cut off some charge in legacies.
What? Shall I find you here?
Or here, or at the Capitol.
Exit Lepidus.
This is a slight, unmeritable man, meet to be sent on errands. Is it fit, the threefold world divided, he should stand one of the 3 to share it?
So you thought him, and took his voice, who should be pricked to die, in our black sentence and prescription.
Octavius, I have seen more days than you. And though we lay these honors on this man to ease ourselves of divers slanderous loads, he shall but bear them as the ass bears gold, to groan and sweat under the business, either led or driven as we point the way. And having brought our treasure where we will, then take we down his load, and turn him off, like to the empty ass, to shake his ears, and graze in commons.
You may do your will, but he's a tried and valiant soldier.
So is my horse, Octavius, and for that I do appoint him store of provender. It is a creature that I teach to fight, to wind, to stop, to run directly on, his corporal motion governed by my spirit. And in some taste is Lepidus, but so he must be taught and trained and bid go forth, a barren-spirited fellow, one that feeds on objects, arts, and imitations, which, out of use and stalled by other men, begin his fashion. Do not talk of him but as a property. And now, Octavius, listen, great things. Brutus and Cassius are levying powers. We must straight make head. Therefore let our alliance be combined, our best friends made, our means stretched. And let us presently go sit in council, how covert matters may be best disclosed, and open perils surest answered.
Let us do so, for we are at the stake, and bade about with many enemies, and some that smile have in their hearts, I fear, millions of mischiefs.
They exit.
Act 4, Scene 1, Antony's house. We see the triumvirate's inner workings. We see what Mark Antony thinks of Lepidus, that the conquered world, how is it fair that it's divided amongst these three people? He doesn't feel that Lepidus is an equal. He compares him to what? A donkey, a horse, okay? He says that he's an errand boy, okay? He's an errand boy. Oh, he's a good fighter. He does what he's supposed to. So does my horse. And is it fair that we give a third of the known conquered world to a horse? I don't think so. And so we can, and it's important for us to see that it isn't like this, the three amigos, everybody's happy and this is going on and it's a happy rule. I mean, there's still friction and they're still struggling. Look at the very beginning, what they're doing on those first couple lines. These many then shall die, their names are pricked. So imagine them making a list. As they write them down, they're hosed. Your brother too must die. Consent you, Lepidus? I do consent. Can you imagine? They're playing God in essence. They're signing death certificates and death warrants. Could you do that for maybe, I don't think you would actually do it for your brother's sister. I don't like my brother, so yeah, I'd do it. Well, but realistically, I mean, could you imagine having that power? And we're not talking the moral and ethical dilemmas that it has, but I mean, that's scary. Octavius goes, then prick him down, Antony. Well, upon condition, Publius shall not live. Who is your sister? Well, if I have to kill my brother, well, then you have to, your nephew, your sister's son, Mark Antony. Oh, he shall not live. Look, with a spot, I damn him. So imagine a name, and he signs off on it, puts a little, pen blotch on the parchment. Oh, Lepidus, go to Caesar's house, fetch the will hither, and we shall determine how to cut off some charge in legacies. Look at the footnote. Look at what his goal is. They want to reduce some of the money that Caesar left in his will for the people. They need it for their treasury. They need it to start putting their army together. They need some of that money. They don't want to give all of what Caesar had to the public like Caesar's will said. But didn't Mark Antony say that Caesar left all this? Oh yeah, he did. But think about what his motivation was during that speech. Saying anything and everything to get them riled up and support him. Now it's a year and a half later. Go get the will and we're going to see if we can't. It's almost like the lawyers. Have you ever heard, talk about, it's in the fine print. It's in the details. You always have to read every little thing and they could put some clause in the bottom that's really going to get you. Like your cell phone plans. Did you know that if you canceled your cell phone plans, there's a huge penalty? Yeah? $200, $300 in some situations. So if you sign on for 2 years, oh good, look at the great rate I got, or oh well the rate's going to go up, or whatever. Well, I want to change providers. Well, you can change providers, but it's going to cost you $300 for us to end it. That's the fine print. So he's looking for fine print so we can siphon off some of this money for our cause. So whether you think that's a good thing or bad thing, it just shows you how how Antony is willing to have all these people killed and executed. That's, we talked at the intro of this scene about 200 people. These are more of those individuals. And yet how he's looking, since he is kind of the one who had been running Rome, making the tough decisions and choices in order to keep it going. After Lepidus leaves, line 12, this is a slight, unmeritable man, meet to be sent on errands. Is it the threefold world divided? He should stand one of the three to share it. So is it fair that this man who I just sent on errand, this guy isn't just some servant. This is one of the three triumvirate, and I just sent him over to get it. He's meant to be an errand boy, not so much a ruler. Is that fair? Oh, well, so you thought him and took his voice. So you asked his opinion about certain stuff, so you must think of him an equal. Octavius, I've seen more days than you. And as we read earlier, Antony's 40-ish, Octavius is 18, so it's almost like a parent with their 18-year-old. And the 18-year-old has equal say to what the parent does. But wouldn't the parent, more times than not, kind of talk down to you a little bit? Do your parents talk down to you a little bit at times? Probably deservedly so on some occasions. But in this particular instance, Lepidus is more of a peer of age with Antony, but Antony just doesn't see the character in him. Octavius, he is a tried and valiant soldier. So is my horse, Octavius. And for that I do appoint him store of provender. So I do give him food, I do take care of him. But my horse is just as, contributes just as much as this guy does. So it's just this kind of a back and forth. The last page of this scene, line 42, 43, we really find out what Brutus and Cassius have been doing. And that's when Antony says on line 42-ish, he says, Brutus and Cassius are levying powers. We must straight make head, therefore let our alliance be combined, our best friends made. So they're levying forces, they're building up their armies out in Greece, so just east of us. And we need to make sure we put my army with your army, and we need to, even though we rule together, we need to put together and make a great big alliance and go and eventually fight. And so that's what ultimately gets wrapped up in this particular scene. Scene 2, a military camp near Sardis in Asia Minor several months later. So now we jump to that place in what is now Greece, but they call it Sardis in Asia Minor. So if your mind, you can just think of Athens and Greece and in that area. Now this is several months later, so let's just say it's 5-6 months. So we are now 2 years after the assassination of Julius Caesar. And so it's taking a long time to have this play out. It's very important that we see, this is the first time that Brutus and Cassius have been together again, and eventually, and they've been apart for a little while. They have their own little armies, and they're coming together to kind of do what Antony was just talking about in the previous scene. And I want you to focus, because they were friendly to one another before. Okay, well that was, as we just established, 2 years ago. Okay, when Brutus and Cassius were planning, well actually Cassius was planning the conspiracy, and then Brutus was going along with it. But Cassius was acting like they were really close, real close. Look at how the relationship has changed. It'll go more in detail in scene 3. But here, see how Brutus is kind of unsure about where they stand, and ultimately when we see them show up. So Brutus is waiting for Cassius to come, get off his horse, and they can walk into the tent for scene 3 and have their big scene.
Scene 2. A military camp near Sardis in Asia Minor. Several months later. Drum. Enter Brutus, Lucilius, Lucius, and the army. Titinius and Pindarus meet them.
Stand ho!
Give the word ho, and stand.
What now, Lucilius? Is Cassius near?
He is at hand, and Pindarus is come to do you salutation from his master.
He greets me well. Your master Pindarus, in his own change, or by ill officers, hath given me some worthy cause to wish things done undone. But if he be at hand, I shall be satisfied.
I do not doubt but that my noble master will appear, such as he is, full of regard and honor.
He is not doubted. A word, Lucilius. How he received you, let me be resolved.
With courtesy and respect enough, but not with such familiar instances, nor with such free and friendly conference, as he hath used of old.
Thou hast described a hot friend cooling. Ever note, Lucilius, when love begins to sicken and decay, it useth an enforced ceremony. There are no tricks in plain and simple faith. But hollow men, like horses hot at hand, make gallant show and promise of their mettle.
Low march within.
But when they should endure the bloody spur, they fall their crests, and like deceitful jades sink in the trial. Comes his army on?
They mean this night in Sardis to be quartered. The greater part, the horse in general, are come with Cassius.
Enter Cassius and his powers.
Hark! He has arrived. March gently on to meet him.
Stand ho!
Stand ho! Speak the word along.
Stand!
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 Most noble brother, you have done me wrong.
Judge me, you gods! Wrong I mine enemies? And if not so, how should I wrong a brother?
Brutus, this sober form of yours hides wrongs, and when you do them...
Cassius, be content. Speak your grief softly. I do know you well. Before the eyes of both our armies here, which should perceive nothing but love from us, let us not wrangle. Bid them move away. Then in my tent, Cassius, enlarge your griefs, and I will give you audience.
Pindarus, bid our commanders lead their charges off a little from this ground.
Lucius, do you the like, and let no man come to our tent till we have done our conference. Let Lucilius and Titinius guard our door.
They exit. Brutus and Cassius remain, and withdraw into Brutus's tent, while Lucilius and Titinius mount guard without.
Act 4, Scene 2, a military camp near Sardis. It's very important that we see where this relationship is at currently. Brutus feels that something's changed. Cassius obviously has some issues, and they're going to have to resolve these, and that'll happen in the next scene. But this is the first time that we really see them. And there's a great line in here that Brutus says in a little bit that we'll talk about. But Brutus and Lucilius, look at line 6, 7, 8. Your master, Pindarus, in his own change or by ill officers, had given me some worthy cause to wish things undone. So over these 2 years, whether it's by something that Cassius did or some of his officers, it's given me reason to kind of wish I could go back and redo some things. Like maybe not join in an alliance with this guy. So some things that happen, we'll find out what those are. But he notices that there's a strain, that something's happening, and he's having some misgivings about it. Lucilius, I want to ask you a question because Pindarus is connected with Cassius. And Lucilius is with Brutus. So these are a lot of names that you might be getting confused with. And what they do is they each send their representative to go and set up a meeting or a message, oh, so-and-so's coming, great. So that's kind of the names if you need to make a connection. So anyways, Brutus asks Lucilius, hey, how did he receive you? Let me know. Let me know, how did he welcome you? What was that like? Because you are an extension of me, and I really want to know. Oh, with courtesy and with respect enough, but not with such familiar instances, nor with such free and friendly conference as he hath us of old. So it was fine, it was formal, but there just wasn't the warmth. There wasn't the friendship that we've had, in years past. So it's rough. Now here's the famous line of Brutus. Thou hast described a hot friend coolly. I think that statement should be easy to analyze on your own. Just imagine a hot cup of coffee, a good friendship. It's starting to cool off, and then it's not good anymore. And so that's what I thought. You've described it well. Ever note, Lucilius, so pay attention, that when love begins to sicken and decay, it useth an enforced ceremony. So look at the footnote. There's a strange formality. So there's an awkwardness. When love, friendship starts to cool down, it's kind of awkward. Kind of like if you have a friend and you're starting to grow apart, or there was some big blow up, or you both perceive something that the other person said behind your back, but you guys can't come out and say it, and then you have to hang out together. You think that'd be a little awkward? And you would pretend that everything's fine? One of those things? Yeah. Okay. So that's very similar to here, and that's what he's describing. And so as Cassius shows up on his horse and they get down and Brutus welcomes him, there's no, "Hi, brother, how are you?" Look at the first thing that's said. Cassius comes out swinging. Not really swinging, but, figuratively. So everybody's like, stand, relax. Hello, speak the word along, stand. And Cassius, line 37, "Most noble brother, you have done me wrong. Judge me, you gods. Wrong I mine enemies. And if not so, how should I wrong a brother? Brutus, this sober form of yours hides wrong." So this elegant stance of yours, you are doing wrong things. And so Cassius obviously is upset about something, and Brutus had sensed leading up to this that there's probably some issue going on, so we need to have some words. Look at the bottom with Brutus then. He says, "Cassius, be content. Speak your grief softly. I do know you well. Before the eyes of both our armies, which should perceive nothing but love from us, let us not wrangle." So meaning, let's not fight in front of the kids. Okay? We don't want the kids to see us fight. Wait a minute, they have kids out? No. The armies. We need them to be unified. We need to not have any friction. So if we have disagreements, speak softly, I know you well. Let's go into our tent and let's talk about these. Let's not watch mom and dad fight in front of the kids. Okay, so that's kind of what he's saying there. He says, "I will listen to you," and that's where they start heading in, off stage, heading into the tent, whatever the setup shelter is. And Brutus says, "Let no man come to our tent till we have done our conference." And so it's going to be a one-on-one discussion where everything is going to be, discussed. Scene 3, inside Brutus's tent a few minutes later, so it's just immediately after. This is a big scene where we get to see those grievances. We get to see why Cassius is upset at Brutus. We get to see Brutus defend what he did and what he said. So look at that, okay? They have a fight. They almost come to blows at one point. But look what saves them from doing that. And then ultimately they plan their war and battle, and they have strategy for and against doing something. Look at that and understand who wants to do what and for what reason. I think it's easy to figure out, but those are just several things that you need to keep an eye on for this particular scene. This is the last big scene of the entire play. Everything from here on out is just boom, boom, boom. So this is all of the battle plans, and then Act 5 is going to be the wars, or war. So that's something that we need to make sure we understand the motivation for fighting now or waiting it out, that type of thing. So follow along, Act 3, Scene 3. Scene 3. Act 4, Scene 3, Brutus's tent a few minutes later. As you recall, Brutus and Cassius had a brief little interaction outside their tent. Immediately upon Cassius dismounting from his horse, or for the purpose of the play, just walking in. Pretty much Brutus was saying, "Hey, you're upset at me. I don't know why. I'm kind of feeling, that there are issues here as well, but let's not let the troops see us fight. We need to be a unified front." And I think that that's a concept that's pretty easy to follow and comprehend. Taking it, nowadays, present day, I think I use the analogy of, we don't want to see mom and dad fight. Don't let the kids see mom and dad fight. In essence, that's the same thing here. We don't want the troops to see that the parents are squabbling. They need to be unified so that the troops are unified. Because in essence, this is civil war. Okay, this is a fracture of Rome and of the country, where Brutus and Cassius have amassed an army, and Antony and Lepidus and Octavius, they have their army and armies, and they're combined. So this is a civil war, similar to what America's war was. Not necessarily what it was fought for, but fighting for control of the country and what they think, who should be in charge and that type of thing. And so, anyways, that's the bit of background. Remember, always go back just one page. If you ever take a break from Shakespeare for a day or an hour, just go back. Oh yeah, that's what it was. And it really is very, very helpful instead of just starting cold. That's just that's something that hopefully you'll take from this class with you that will help you out. Good, so we pretty much have this altercation, and there is no violence. There's a mild little implied threat of violence, but it's just verbal back and forth. And it's so important because remember what Cassius thought and felt about Brutus. Yes, it was always, he had ulterior motives. If I can only get Brutus. Oh, Brutus, you're the most noble person, blah, 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 blah. Brutus is a noble person, and they were friends and acquaintances. Okay, and we've said that this is now 2 years after that assassination. Brutus had said in the last scene that you have described a hot friend cooling. So imagine a hot beverage is slowly cooling, and it loses that intensity and fire and that love and friendship. And so there are reasons for that, and hopefully, as I said in the intro to this scene, I hope you're able to pick those up. And we'll see that here in just a moment. Cassius starts off right off the bat with it. That you wronged me doth appear in this. And he holds up a letter. You have condemned and noted Lucius Pella for taking bribes here of the Sardinians, where in my letters praying on his side, because I knew him, was slighted off. He was still punished. So there was somebody here that was in trouble for taking bribes, and you punished them, even though I sent you a personal letter asking for leniency and forgiving. It's kind of like nowadays, if somebody gets in trouble, but they know somebody, a higher up, a politician says, oh, look the other way. Okay, well, we will get rid of the speeding ticket then. You were pulling strings. And Brutus didn't want to do that because Brutus is an honorable man. Mark Antony was not lying when he was saying that. He is a very noble individual. And look at Brutus' response. You wronged yourself to write in such a case. Shame on you. Shame on you for writing and vouching for this criminal, this person. Our noble names who took down this tyrant. You are now vouching for a criminal doing something that's illegal, morally and ethically wrong. Okay, that's wrong. And you wronged yourself, sir. Brutus says, Cassius, you yourself are much condemned to have an itching palm, to sell and march your offices for gold to understand. So you've been accused of taking bribes as well, for giving offices and giving titles to people who pay for them. And so I have associated with an individual. My life has been changed forever. And if I could go back, he says in a little bit, down there at line 20, if I could go back in time, I'd probably want to change just because of the people and the decisions you're making and the people that you're associating with. If you're vouching for this person, that makes that connection between those two people. And that connection between those two people can be connected from you, Cassius, to me. And I am a noble person, and I do not do that. And so that's where we see Brutus's struggle. Remember March, the Ides of March. Remember, did not great Julius bleed for justice' sake? What villain touched his body that did stab, and not for justice? What? Shall one of us that struck the foremost man of all this world, but for supporting robbers? Shall we now contaminate our fingers with base bribes? And so that's where we really see him struggling with this. You, almighty Cassius, why are you you demean us. You bring us down from this pedestal that we have put ourselves on. Morally and ethically, we chose for the better of Rome, and look at what you're doing. Is this the type of rulers that we want in Rome when we take control and win in this war? Somebody that takes pride? And so Brutus is very upset about this. Cassius, look at his response at the top of the next page, line 28, 29. Brutus, bait me not, provoke me not. I'll not endure it. I will not have it. You forget yourself to hedge me in. I am a soldier. I, older in practice, abler than yourself to make conditions. So I'm more experienced. I'm older than you. I can make these rules and regulations. How dare you talk to me about this? I'm older than you. I'm better than you. Brutus, go to. You are not Cassius. Leave me alone. This isn't you're speaking, and you might be Cassius in form, but this is not you, man. What have you done with Cassius? So this is Brutus' struggle. Cassius goes, I am. I say you are not. Urge me no more, or I shall forget myself. Do not provoke. I don't know what I will do. Don't push me anymore, Brutus. I don't know what's going to happen. Have mind upon your help. Tempt me no further. Kind of a threat. Don't push me, man. Don't push me. I'm not going to be responsible for what happens if you keep coming at me. Away, slight man. Is it possible? Hear me, for I will speak. Must I give way and room to your rash choler, to your quick temper? Shall I be frightened when a madman stares? So Brutus is his main focus here is, this is not Cassius. What are you? And Cassius offended, like, of course this is Cassius. Cassius can't see his wrongs. He can't. He's struggling with that. But Brutus is just beside himself with how far his friend has fallen. And so he's really struggling with that. Cassius, oh ye gods, must I endure all this? All this, aye, more. And so we are, this is a, minus the fist, a vocal back and forth. I can't believe you're talking to me like this. What, man? What? How can you be like this? I'm not doing anything wrong. Of course you're doing something wrong. This isn't the Cassius that I grew up with, that I did this stuff with. Man, you better watch yourself, or I'm gonna. Oh, what are you gonna do? I'm not gonna listen. You're gonna listen to this. And so this is back and forth with passion. Cassius, is it come to this? You say you are a better soldier. Let it appear so. Make your vaunting, make your boasting true. Oh, you think you're a better soldier? All right, man. Let's man up. Let's do this. Let's find out who's better. Look at Cassius. Whoa. You wrong me. Every way you wrong me, Brutus. I said an elder soldier, not a better, because he did say that I was older, that I can make these decisions, blah, blah, blah. Brutus takes that as being, oh, you think you're better, you think you should lead? Fine, let's do this. And so you can almost imagine a threatening, challenging, grabbing your sword, duel type thing. And so, oh, no, because Cassius isn't, he's not as noble as Brutus, so we can probably say he's not as skilled as Brutus. Look at Brutus says, if you did, I care not. When Caesar lived, he durst not thus have moved me. When he lived, he didn't provoke me. He didn't make me this upset and angry as what you are doing now. And so we're coming to a head here where they ultimately are going to start to resolve their tempers. The next page, line 63, 64. Cassius, do not presume too much upon my love. I may do that, I shall be sorry for. But don't think that just because we are so friendly that you can do and say what you think you're getting away with, because I might do something that I will later regret. Whether that's right now or in a little while. Some choice will be made. You have done that, you should be sorry for. Follow along, line 65. You have done that, you should be sorry for. There is no terror, Cassius, in your threats. For I am armed so strong in honesty that they pass by me as the idle wind. So we see him taking the moral high ground. I am honest and virtuous, and you have separated yourself from me, and you can give me all these threats, and I'm not scared of them. I am too honest for any of this. Just wash right off of me. Wash right off me. I did send to you for certain. So now we find out why Brutus is angry. Okay? Cassius comes, he's angry that this Lucius Pella was, Cassius vouched for him, and you didn't do what you said, you didn't do what I wanted. Now we find out why Brutus is upset. Up till now, Brutus is just defending and saying how wrong Cassius was. Here's why Brutus, he needed help, he needed money, he needed gold, and he was turned down. I did send to you for certain sums of gold which you denied me. For I can raise no money by bio means. By heaven, I had rather coin my heart and drop my blood for drachmas than to wring from the hard hands of peasants their vile trash. So I would I would never take money from people and go and loot and take and pillage and get the money that way. I would never do that. That's wrong. That's not going to happen. I did send to you for gold to pay my legions, which you denied me. Was that done like Cassius? Should I have answered Caius Cassius? So if you had asked me, would I have answered that way? Would I have said no? When Marcus Brutus grows so covetous to look such rascal counters from his friends, so grubby coins from his friends, be ready, gods, with all your thunderbolts. So if I ever act and deny my friends like that, gods, kill me now with your thunderbolts. I would never do what you did to me when I needed help for our cause and our armies. So my letter to you was much different than your letter to me. Your letter to me was, I need this man let off. Even though he committed those crimes and was wrong morally and ethically, I want him resolved. My letter was, I need money and gold for our cause and for our armies, and you denied me. Cassius' response, I denied you not. You did. I did not. He was but a fool that brought my answer back. Brutus have ribbed my heart. A friend should bear his friend's infirmities, but Brutus makes mine greater than they are. You should forgive your friend's faults. Have you ever heard of that before? If you truly love somebody, you should look past their faults. And that's what he's saying here. Brutus goes, I do not, till you practice them on me. You love me not. I do not like your faults. A friendly eye could never see such faults. Cassius on the next, this is his, oh, woe is me. No one likes poor Cassius. Oh, how can you treat me so bad? Come, Antony, and young Octavius, come. So enemies, come find me. Revenge yourselves alone on Cassius, for Cassius is aweary of the world, hated by ones he loves. So hated by Brutus. Braved, challenged by his brother. Checked like a bondsman, like a slave, scolded like a slave. All his faults observed, set in a notebook, so written down, learned, and conned by rote. So all my faults written down and memorized by those that love me. Oh, come and kill me now. Oh, woe is me. Oh, I could weep my spirit from mine eyes. There is my dagger, so we can pull it out. There is my dagger, and here my naked breast within a heart, dearer than Pluto's mind, richer than gold. If thou beest a Roman, take it forth. I that denied thee gold will give my heart. Strike as thou didst at Caesar, for I know when thou didst hate him worst, thou lovest him better than ever thou lovest Cassius. Oh, woe is me. So even though you hated Caesar, the most you ever hated him, you probably still loved him more than you loved me. And so we can see how this friendship has fractured. And they had a fight. Everybody fights. You and your friends have probably had some disagreements that you have been able to work out over, some time. Probably not to the degree of this, but we see them breaking down at this particular point. Look at what Brutus says. He says, sheathe your dagger, so put your knife, calm, relax. So here is where we've been building up a lot of intensity. Here we kind of calm down a little bit. And we're going to find out quickly on the next page. Brutus says in line 116, he goes, when I spoke that, I was ill-tempered too. So when you spoke that, things were a little bit rough. Okay. The next page we find out after a poet shows up. Cassius says on line 143, Cassius says, I did not think you could have been so angry. They're drinking, so they're calmed down. Oh, I'm sorry. Things have been wrong. Oh, I didn't think you could ever get so angry. That was really scary. Yeah, go Cassius, I am sick of many griefs. No man bears sorrow better. Portia is dead. And so he finds out his wife is dead. Huh? Portia? She is dead. Look at Cassius' response, and this is one of those, it's not a funny line, but I find a little humor. He goes, how scaped I killing when I crossed you so? Upon what sickness? So, your wife died, and I provoked you to such anger and challenged you? How did you not kill me? I probably would have killed myself if we were switched around. What grief you must have. And we see that, I said that was Portia. Think 2 years. 2 years since she's seen her husband. He had to ride out of town. And she supported, she loved him. She was going along with the whole conspiracy and all that. She loves her man, and for 2 years, and we will find out later, she's been seeing people rounded up and killed and executed, anybody associated with it. She might think her husband's going to die and never see him again. She's crazy with love. So she kills herself. And we see that Brutus says, she was impatient of my absence. She was unable to endure my absence. And grief that young Octavius and Mark Antony had made themselves so strong, with this she fell distracted. Okay, and her attendants absent, she swallowed fire. How can you swallow fire? Well, she took burning. Have you ever seen a fire, the red embers at the bottom? When she was left alone, she took those and swallowed those. That seems like a very brutal way to go. Have you guys ever touched something that's hot? And you're, oh, ouch, 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 and it blisters? Maybe you touched a pan, or when I was a kid, for some stupid reason, I touched an exhaust pipe on a go-kart. Is this hot? Ow, yes, and I had to run a quarter-mile home. I probably never ran a faster than 200 or 400 in my life. But some small little burn, that really hurts. Imagine swallowing fire. You think when you're sick and you have a sore throat that's really rough. And so she died by that way. So she went, I don't want to say she was crazy like insane asylum, but she couldn't endure his absence anymore. You think that doesn't add a little bit of guilt to Brutus? Look at what we've done. Think back. If they had just listened to Cassius and killed Antony when they had a shot, or even let him live but not let him speak at the funeral, wouldn't things be different? More than likely? Would they have had to be run out of town? No. That wouldn't have happened. At that point, maybe something later on would have happened, but things would have been different. History would have been changed. And so that's a very, very important moment. The next page on 845, line 200, right around in there. I'm going to jump a little bit because I want to speed through this. We're going to talk strategy. What should we do with our armies? Remember, we are in what is called Sardis Minor, Asia Minor. It's over in Greece, which on a map is just east of Italy. Okay? On most maps and globes, it's about that far. So that's obviously not to scale, but it's about an inch away. And so Brutus and them are deciding. The argument is, do we sit here and let our enemies come to us, or do we go and meet them? And it's really interesting to see the two dynamics because we see some war strategy play out. Line 200 or so, Cassius says, this is it. 'Tis better that the enemy seek us, come to us. So shall he waste his means. He will weary his soldiers, doing himself offense, whilst we, lying still, are full of rest, defense, and nibbles. So let's wait. It will take them weeks and weeks and weeks to travel this far. And in doing so, they're walking, they're pulling all of their armor, weapons, they're wasting all of their food. Maybe it costs them money. They're exerting a lot of effort to come to us. We're just sitting back relaxing, waiting for them to show. Let's just wait for that to happen. And so when they come, they'll be tired and we'll be fresh. So that's Cassius. Doesn't that sound like a good idea? I think so. Why waste all of our food and effort when we could just sit here and have the exact same battle that we're going to have if we had to walk 2 weeks for it? Brutus says, good reasons must of force give place to better. The people the people between Philippi and this ground do stand, but in a forced affection. Forced affection. Oh, there's a footnote. What does that mean? Are friendly towards us because they have no choice. So the people between Antony's army and us, they're friendly to us because we're here. They're worried about what we're going to do. They're not loyal to us. So what's going to happen to them as Antony comes closer and closer and comes by those towns? They're not going to be nice to Brutus anymore. They're going to jump on board with the people that they want to be on board with, Antony and Octavius and Lepidus. And so as they march on us, they're going to get more and more people, stronger and stronger. Maybe get more and more food, so maybe they won't be as weak as you think. Maybe, given more time, given them an extra month of travel, they will be stronger and they will be harder to defeat. And so that's really where the struggle is. Do we go and meet them halfway before they can build up their army even more? Or do we wait and let them weary themselves out? So that's the two back and forth. That's the struggle that they're doing. And we'll see exactly what they decide to do on the next page there. Good. Brutus at the very bottom here, 2:15. He says, you must note beside that we have tried the utmost of our friends. So we've demanded the most that our allies can give us. Our legions are brimful. Our glasses are overflowing, metaphorically. We are at the strongest we can possibly be. We've got everything. And the enemy is getting stronger and stronger. We're not getting stronger. So we're at the height of what we can be at. So we need to fight now, not wait. And so it's decided, and Cassius finally consents and agrees that on line 225, he says, we'll along ourselves and meet them at Philippi. So we aren't going to sit. We're going to raise up camp, and we're going to go and meet them at that halfway point. As they're coming to us, we will go meet them since we are at our max. And so that's ultimately what's going to happen. Look at Cassius as he gets ready to leave down there. He says, oh, my dear brother, line 234, this was an ill beginning of the night. Never comes such division between our souls. Let it not, Brutus. So this started out a horrible night. Please, let's never have this again. Let's keep our communication. And so we see this relationship kind of mended a little bit. They've aired out their grievances, and things are a little bit better. The last two pages, go ahead and look at this. Around line 270, Lucius has come in, his servant. He's fallen asleep. Everybody's asleep. Brutus is still awake. And here we have a presence of a ghost. This is something that happens a lot in the tragedies of Shakespeare. Hamlet doesn't know how his father was killed until he talks to the ghost of his father and finds out, spoiler alert, that his uncle killed him and is now the king. So the brother killed his brother and is now king. We see a ghost in the Julius Caesar. In Macbeth, the scene that you'll have when you get to be seniors. There is a huge scene where we see Macbeth completely break down out of guilt for the person that he had killed when he sees that person's ghost. And so they are big, momentous moments of the plays, even though they show up once or twice and barely do anything and barely say anything, if at all. But it's a supernatural moment that tends to show up. And remember, add this with the omens that we talked about before, and we definitely have a supernatural quality playing here. Line 276, when he sees the ghost, he goes, who comes here? I think it is the weakness of mine eyes that shapes this monstrous apparition. So maybe I'm too tired to see this. Oh, it makes my blood cold and my hair to stand on end. So I'm freaked out. The ghost says, thy evil spirit, Brutus, why comest thou? To tell thee thou shalt see me at Philippi. Well, then I shall see thee again. Aye, at Philippi. Why? I will see thee at Philippi then. So he doesn't come in and say much other than, you will see me again. You will see my ghost again. So we can look at this as a foreshadowing of, obviously, the battle that we've already said is going to happen at Philippi. But that, there will be some revenge for what happened. So Brutus, probably isn't going to work out too well. But the battle is going to happen. Think back to what Mark Antony's huge blood, carnage, wrath speech was about, where he said at one point that Caesar, the ghost of Caesar, Caesar's spirit will come ranging out of hell with the goddess of war and revenge and carnage, and then they're going to fight in blood and all of that. And so here we have the ghost of Caesar saying, we're going to see me again. You'll see me at Philippi. And so we can see that things are starting to play out and lead up into the wars that's going to take place, in the next couple pages, but in the very short Act 5. So, good. Any questions on Act 4? All of the exposition, all of the rising action has been building, and now we're ready to have some fun and see what happens with this battle and see how things play out. Okay?